FloodGate family, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Leadership Live. And I am excited to have Michael Magnani here at FloodGate, coming all the way from California to come do this live with us. Thanks so much for coming. I've been lucky enough to get to know you and you as president of CLS America and all the great things you're doing. But you know what? People watching, going to be watching this, aren't as lucky. So give them a little bit about you and, of course, the great things you're doing at CLS right now.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for inviting me today, Joe.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be out here and be able to meet your team out here in the studio. I'm a jack of all trades. I've done a little bit of everything in my 25-year career. Background is in microbiology. I spent a while doing healthcare management consulting. Went back to grad school. Took a little bit of an 8-year detour into Houston. Started a couple of companies and ultimately relocated out to LA in 2017 and joined the folks at CLS in the fall of 2019. And I spent the last 4 years working really closely with my colleagues out across the pond in Europe on growing and expanding our market presence in the urological market.
Right. Nice. Yeah, you guys are doing some incredible things. And I'm sure through that journey from startups to working from other people, you've seen a lot of great leaders, have led a lot of people. I'm really curious, what are the attributes you think is important to be a good leader in this unique med tech environment?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of leaders. Some are great. I've seen a whole spectrum. I'll put it at that.
Yeah.
There's a handful of attributes that I think are important. They can kind of transcend any industry. I think first and foremost, an effective leader really needs to be an effective communicator. You have to be able to communicate to your team. You have to see that vision and be able to relay that out so the team can execute on the plan and ultimately exceed expectations. You have to have an innate drive and dedication to the mission, while at the same time being flexible enough to pivot when the market demands it. And that's tricky. Some people are good at one, but not the other.
Yeah.
In my experience, I've found the folks that really tend to do well in leadership roles tend to establish a win-win kind of environment in their culture where the employees are encouraged and motivated and driven to achieve their goals, which are in turn aligned with the corporate goals.
Yeah.
And ultimately having a culture of mutual respect is really important. I found that's really it helps people kind of get out of their comfort zone and really push to grow as individuals.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, when you start transcending and going into the specifics of the medical device field, I think you have to layer in a couple other elements too. It's really important in my mind to be able to articulate the competitive positioning of your product, understanding where you are, where are your strengths, and understand also where your weaknesses are. Every product has them. I've also had the fortunate opportunity to work with a lot of different types of specialties over the last couple of decades, and I will tell you they are very different animals. Interventional cardiologists are extremely different from epileptologists. And understanding the phenotype of that doctor, of that call point, as well as kind of the political landscape.
Yeah.
Where are they practicing? Are they in an academic center? Are they in a private center? Are they concierge? You really need to understand all of that, all of those aspects, and being able to kind of bring all that to bear is what makes a really effective leader.
That's a lot of great nuggets there. I mean, having that clear communication of vision, right? Having that ability to drive, to push through and hard, but knowing when to push and to pivot.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
It is.
And having that ability to, having that bring others on with you so you have a team to help you get through it. But you add all of those core fundamentals into something where you need a lot of strategy, right? In med tech, right?
That's right.
You need to understand where does that product really fit? And then how to message that unique, I like the word phenotype.
Yeah.
That's
a scientist.
That's your background there. That phenotype to get back, what's going to resonate, So you're not only, which kind of, if you think about it, is that full circle, right? You set that vision, what you're going after, how you're going to message, and then driving that through. So really, really well articulated how you do it. So, I'm sure you've had a few startups, different things. There's been, everything's always gone right, correct?
For sure.
Yeah.
Right.
What leadership lessons have you kind of learned the hard way, if you will? And what would you, educate others so they might not do the same,
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the takeaway point is leadership is not for the faint of heart. You have to make difficult decisions on a daily basis. Typically, those decisions have to be made with, partial or suboptimal information. You're not always going to get it right. You're not. That's just, and as soon as you accept that fact, you will be a more effective leader. You have to be able to move past that. You can't sit there and dwell on what didn't go right. You can't be a Monday morning quarterback.
Or frozen because you're just waiting to get all the information, to be able to move, right?
Yeah. You don't want to get analysis paralysis either. One thing I've learned is that not everybody is always motivated by the same thing. Companies are run by people, and people are inherently not perfect.
Right.
You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to understand who you're working with, both managing up and managing down, what their motivations are, and you just have to plan accordingly on that front.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's some great. I mean, really some good points in there. It's like really understanding, that not everyone's going to be the exact same, and having that humility when you need it,
Right.
And that humility allows you probably to go, hey, I'm going to go when I got 80% of the data.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that 80-20 rule does apply.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I've heard that many times from other leaders.
That's right.
That's the point to make the decision.
Right.
Too early, too late. It either too fast or it takes too long, and you miss the window of opportunity.
Yeah.
Some good suggestions. I'm going to continue to ask some great questions here, but I know you probably are going to have some questions, get insight from Michael here. So just put them below on the side, wherever it is on your screen. Just type them in. We're going to pull those up at the end. So please just put some of those questions below, but I'll continue here as we're talking here. One of my favorite is developing the high potential people, and the team to get them to the next level. What would you tell leaders, and what have you done well yourself to be able to do that?
Yeah. Well, what I've seen has been very successful is to communicate openly with folks who are in the team or above you.
Yeah.
People who are interested in getting involved and getting up and running. I think it's really important. I really tried hard to find people who are self-motivated and self-driven. I encourage that with my team. I encourage them to seek out opportunities to grow and expand professionally. I have been in situations before where I've been under management structures that are a little more on the micromanagement side. I can't really understand how that works. I guess it works in certain circumstances. I haven't found it to be extremely successful. I really try to find folks who are motivated, driven, self-starters.
Yeah.
And encourage them. Let them turn loose.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I love the word agency when I think of that, and that power of agency and allowing them have the people that are self-starters, but giving them the agency and ownership, go do it. Right?
That's right.
And, celebrate when because it will go wrong, right?
That's right. No, of course.
And celebrate that when it goes wrong, for taking the bold move to take the step forward.
Hey, and failures are learning opportunities.
Yeah.
They always are.
Absolutely.
You can just kind of sit back and reflect.
Yep. I totally agree. So, yeah. So again, please put some comments below. If you guys have any other questions here, we're going to take those at the end. Obviously here, finding talent,
That's right.
and evaluating new talent is what we love to do at FloodGate. So this is near and dear, but what have you found works for you and to build the great organizations you've had and the current one you're currently running? What works?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy once you get up and running. One thing that's really great is the team that we have already has a fairly good relationship with folks who are in the industry. Particularly in our field in urology, it's a very tight community. It's a very small community. People tend to know people.
Yep.
You can also tap into other sources like LinkedIn, other professional networking, venues like that. And obviously relying on external agencies, third parties such as Brittany and you and the team of FloodGate. You guys have been extremely helpful for us in helping to find those diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. I mean, and I think you touched on that network, right? And relying tightly on the network. I always say, 83% of positions are filled. Well, we're certainly more filled through us, but 83% of the time is filled through the network. So it's important to be able to keep your finger on the pulse in that small community you have, as well as having a good partner. I think it's some really good things. Now, there's a lot of people that are listening now are leaders, but there's some that are aspiring leaders.
That's right.
Right? They hope to be where you are someday. So what do you tell them? What tips do you give them to get to that leadership level?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of like what I touched on before with the folks that are already on the team. Being open with your existing leadership. Let them know, hey, I'm interested. I want to take on more responsibility. I want to grow as an operator and eventually as a manager and then ultimately as a leader. I think you can certainly demonstrate your capabilities by knocking it out of the park with what your current roles are.
Yeah.
But asking for additional opportunities to grow, expressing a desire and a passion to help execute on the plan and see the mission ultimately achieved.
Yeah, no, it's great suggestion. First rule, stick your hand up. Let it know that's what you want to do.
That's right.
Give me more. Put me in, coach, right? However you want to put it.
That's right.
Is that first thing. And then I think the second thing I heard you say, which is crucial, because some people, they'll stick their hand up and they're like, well, why didn't I get the opportunity? But they're not succeeding where they are now. Right.
Let's
So
work on that.
you need to nail that as the fundamental, and then those other things come to it.
It falls suit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask one little question, my last one. So guys, please put some comments below if you have any additional questions. We'll be taking those from Michael, but it's a little fun. What's your favorite? Maybe I got to stand my superhero stance here. So what is your favorite superhero? More importantly, why?
Yeah. So growing up, I never really was into the superheroes a whole lot. My kids are 3 and 18 months right now. So
okay, you're I was gonna say in the heart of superheroes, but you're coming into
we're coming into it. We have the ABCs in every letter of the alphabet as a superhero, and I'm working on learning that with my son.
Okay,
now.
perfect.
But honestly, the guy who's the inspiration and the hero of my life has always been my father. We take so much for granted being where we are, being in the U.S. He was born premature in Nazi-occupied France.
Wow.
He slept in a shoebox. He was born in a house. He wasn't born in a hospital. It's a miracle he even lived. Most of our family made it out of there. A couple of them did. He immigrated to the U.S. in his 20s, started a company, built it up, sold it. Now he's retired in Lake Tahoe. And so, he epitomizes the American dream in my mind.
Wow.
And he's somebody that overcame an incredible amount of adversity. And so he is really a personal inspiration for me.
Yeah, that's truly a hero. I mean, if you think someone that overcomes adversity and cares for others, makes other things, started a business, helped people's livelihoods, raised kids, a family.
Yeah.
That's some, that's a man of steel right there. In my opinion. Yeah. That's incredible. That's great. Well, guys, I want to take some questions here. We've got Jessica McDaniel, who's got a question. What experience throughout your career have impacted your leadership style? So is there a particular inflection point maybe that you reflect on and says, hey, you know what? Yeah, that kind of changed how I thought.
Yeah. And I'll obviously try to sanitize that so it doesn't offend anybody in particular. But I did have an opportunity where I worked for a fairly large organization that was highly bureaucratic, and having come in prior from that to working in a consulting environment, this was really my first opportunity being in a larger company. And my manager was highly micromanaging, it's extremely critical, very skeptical of everything you did, operated on, and it really affected me. I said, I will never do this.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot about what not to do.
Yeah.
And I actually told him after I left the company, I approached him and let him know. I said, you've actually been this has been very constructive and very informative working with you. And I don't think he even understood what I was saying. But that definitely affected me. And I have a great structure supporting me right now at CLS. The team, the board, and the senior management, fantastic. But it really it's a good experience for people to be able to experience that, to understand,
right,
how not to operate.
Yeah, and you mentioned that earlier. One of the biggest things, is that developing high performers is that agency.
That's right.
And if you're micromanaging and you tell them how, you're not giving any agency, which doesn't allow the great people. You push the great people out, right?
Absolutely, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's a great example from you. So we see if we have any other questions here to pull up. I'm not gonna try the first name, so I apologize.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try, but is MSP a plan you'll recommend to all the clinics you bring in as clients? This is from Jessica there.
Right. So let me explain the MSP.
Okay.
So this is what we've done in the U.S. and the urology field in particular is we've started to mobilize our equipment. So we actually will bring the laser on site to clinics and bring a technician, bring all the equipment, and help run the cases. And we found that in our current life cycle, in our commercial life cycle, where we have, our reimbursement is sort of in development, I would say. And you have a capital equipment expense that's pretty steep for a new technology that is not very well reimbursed or consistently reimbursed. It makes it hard for physicians to adopt it. And so what we found is there's a precedent already in urology. There are companies that do this, that are mobilized. They do it with cryotherapy, they do it with HIFU, they do it with other focal therapies where they just bring the equipment in and the tech, and so that's what we've started to do. And we found that that's been very effective in a handful of sites. Now, I don't think it's something that we would necessarily roll out to all the clinics, and that's primarily driven by cost. So again, it's a concierge procedure. It's not going to be for everybody. Not everyone has the means to be able to afford to pay cash out of pocket for a therapy. And so we're very careful and we're very strategic about where we go with that model. But,
that makes sense, to be able to really start that adoption, get the placements, create the access, right? Until it becomes, really with the reimbursement and clinical outcomes becomes more of a standard of care, and then allows them to sweat the asset they have and actually make more profit.
Well, and it's a chicken and an egg problem. And this is a bigger problem than just, CLS or urology. This is just a fundamental problem with our healthcare system in America is it's not challenging to get a product to market. It is very challenging to get a product reimbursed. And in order to get that reimbursement, you need to demonstrate it works with a lot of clinical evidence, and nobody wants to pay for clinical evidence. So it's sort of that chicken and an egg. And this is sort of the way that we've plugged that gap.
No, I like it. Very creative. Thank you, Jesper, for asking that question. See if we've got any other questions coming up. Looks like Sarah. How do you balance setting ambitious sales targets, right, with your team that feels supported and not overwhelmed, right? So how have you done that, especially in startup, right? So that's even harder. But any suggestions you have?
Excuse me. Well, whenever I set the sales targets, I involve my sales team. We involve the folks with sales and with clinical. I'm not of the mindset that I am going to be the oracle and understand exactly how this is going to be adopted and how many kits we're going to sell and how many sites we're going to be up and running. That ultimately is something that the sales team is going to have a better pulse on than I will. And obviously we work hand in hand. I don't want to be, setting the goal too low.
Right.
We want to obviously push to be able to grow. Our parent company is public. We're traded in the NASDAQ, so I think the investors and the stockholders in the market generally want to see a certain amount of growth, a certain amount of accuracy. But I try to involve the folks who are ultimately the ones that are out there making it happen. It's again, I've been in larger companies where people kind of call out shots from the ivory tower, and they aren't necessarily the ones who have to execute on it. It generally doesn't work well.
Well, if you involve and have a bottoms up approach, everyone's bought in from the get go. The problem, people closer to the problem usually know how to fix it, right? So, and it gives that agency. I think those are some great fundamentals. I would agree with that. See if we have any other questions coming through. Let's go. Motivation. What gets you up in the morning to be a leader?
That sounds kind of cheesy, but I really love the guys I work with. I really enjoy it. I mean, I don't consider it a job.
Right.
I genuinely.
Are you just saying that because they're sitting a little bit off camera right now?
Well, yeah, that's right. Throw something at the other guys. No, but I mean, sincerely, I really enjoy working with these people. I think that one of the elements that I try to do as a leader as well is it's not unidirectional. I'm learning from them. Just as much as I'm trying to instruct and guide their plan and helping them execute on the plan, I continue to learn from the people I work with. Just this morning, I got put in my place. There was something that I probably could have done differently. And so it's important to be able to be open-minded and receptive to receiving that constructive feedback. But I don't consider it a job. I really don't. And I've worked in a lot of places that I dreaded going to work. So
that's awesome.
That's great. It's all about the team.
It's awesome. Michael, I've been inspired by your leadership and some of the ideas that you've shared with us. Hopefully you guys and the FloodGate family have been able to put a couple of arrows in your leadership quiver. And Michael, thank you so much for sharing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sir. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.